Survey. We have the U.S. Office of Education, yes, but then we have Office of Naval Research and the National Science Foundation. We're all involved in Project Talent. MK Ultra had a bunch of programs under it, and it's my understanding, Dave, and I could be wrong, but I want to ask you, it's my understanding that MK Ultra was in fact the umbrella or parent agency or organization or program for Project Talent. Is that true?
That's correct. And there's at least 192 sub-programs underneath Project Talent. But by the same token, there are other groups who are doing similar things who would take a Project Talent graduate, would take one of their what's called an altar, and they would split that altar further to do other things that Project Talent wouldn't know about.
So it's kind of like those Russian dolls with a doll and a doll and a doll and a doll. Yeah. All right, we have to step away for a break, and let me ask the caller. Caller, are you willing to hang on through the break? Hello, caller.
Hello.
Are you willing to hang on through the break?
Sure.
All right, you hang on. You're on hold. You won't hear anything, but after we come back from the break, you'll be first up. We're talking this evening with Dave Corso, and Dave is telling us about his involvement as a super soldier. He was first-generation super soldier. He says we're now on probably fifth or sixth generation super soldier. We'll find out what that means, too, when we come back. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show. My guest is Dave Corso, and we have a caller online. Caller, your first name and from where are you calling? Hello, caller.
Hi, this is Dave from Colorado. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Okay. I had a question for Dave Corso. I was wondering, isn't this super soldier program, doesn't this go back like thousands of years to like the times of a Knights Templar, when, they were able to put together a force of just a few hundreds of troops that were able to defeat an army that was like 10 times their size, when they were fighting back in the medieval times with Saladin. And then you had the Spartans, who had that super soldier culture type training and were able to defeat armies that were a lot larger than them. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Thanks for the call.
That's a very interesting question. That may have been then, but this really started in late 20s, early 30s in Germany. And they did a tremendous amount of research into this. And, of course, they brought all those doctors and scientists over here on Project Paperclip. But the federal government was also doing research into that before. They had to be, because my brother has to be a pre-generation super soldier.
What do you mean by pre-generation?
That's how they got to me, because he's Celtic and Sicilian. Most of the people who are involved in this are Celtic Native American.
Any reason why?
There's something about the Celtic bloodlines that's absolutely intriguing.
Do you know what it is?
It is the psychic ability that I'm convinced is part of what they look for in the Celtic bloodlines. And I know Stanford Research Institute, SRI, nice place, does a lot of good, but they're also a screening ground for Project Talent. My son was tested there for 3 days when he was 6 years old. Now, he tested a genius or above in 5 out of 7 categories. But there was something about him that they felt he would not be a good candidate. So this has to go back, 70 years here, because Hitler was financed by what has become known as the New World Order. Hitler tried 3 times to make peace with Britain during World War II, and 3 times Churchill told him to go fly a kite. He did not want war with England, did not want war with the United States.
Well, but he did attack England.
Yes, he did, but he tried to make peace with them, too.
Well, that's I have to admit, that's not something that I was aware of. I do know that Ho Chi Minh...
a lot of research on this, and
I do know that Ho Chi Minh tried...
about World War II that are an absolute, total, complete fabrication. But I won't go into that.
So do you think Hitler was a good guy?
No, I think he was a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he was the worst of the bad guys. I don't think he's any worse than what we have now. Because right now we are so close to having a socialistic government where the president uses signing letters, and he uses presidential decrees, and he has all these czars, and where in the Constitution does it say he can have these czars? Czars is
well,
Russian.
I'm certainly not going to defend that happening, but I am going to point out a fact of history, and that is that he isn't the first one to do that.
No.
We have, for I guess since Eisenhower, we have had presidents ruling by decree. They call it executive order. More and more and more. Now, FDR did it a lot, and FDR had a bunch of czars. He's the first one to have czars. But we've had a long line of presidents that have ruled by executive order. And we even had Bill Clinton make the statement one time that if he couldn't get this national gun control going through the Congress, then he said, we can't do it legislatively, I'll do it with an executive order. Now, then he was informed that an executive order only has the force of law upon federal employees. It does not have any force of law upon anybody but federal employees. So that's the thing that saved Second Amendment rights then. But we've been exposed to presidents acting more like kings for most of my life. Not all of it, but for most of it. And I think that's part of what Eisenhower was warning us about, as he warned us about the military-industrial complex, the seeking and obtaining of unwarranted power. I think that's all part of that. I think he was warning us about the New World Order without using that term. But I've got a question about Project Stargate. Now, you said earlier that we have time travel, and we have stargates where they can travel to other planets.